build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die.
Hi folks, this is Matty. Thanks for joining in, coming along to our Twitter Spaces. We didn't do one last night with the boys for the Ramble, doing a transfer deadline day Spaces, so we thought we would leave them to quite a long space to fill. The last thing they needed was somebody else coming and competing for that space. So well done to them last night for keeping it going. Quite a long shift for the boys, and fair play to them for filling it 3 hours. I've struggled for like 5-10 minutes, never mind 3 hours. So good on them, and if you tuned in, hope you enjoyed it. So Hibs went to Ross County last night up in Dingwall. By the way, is Ross County a place? Like, what's the point in playing in Dingwall and calling your team Ross County? Just call your fucking town Ross County, or call your fucking team Dingwall. That's my first gripe with them, right? We went up looking to get 3 points, which would have taken us closer to, or would have taken us into fourth place actually. Went a goal up. Good finish for Youan after some comical defending, really. And then conceded one of the worst fucking goals I've seen in ages in terms of referees just ignoring a blatant foul. We've got VAR. VAR should be a safety net for a decision like that. Obviously, wasn't it? In this case, they've looked at it and decided it's Hibs, evidently. Hibs didn't get decisions. So the goal stood, and with it went our fourth place hopes. So we're keen to hear folks' views on whether they agree that it was a foul. I think we were pretty unanimous. Colin and I got up this morning and recorded the match. If you've not watched that yet, you'll see it on YouTube, or it'll be in your podcast player. It's only like 20 odd minutes where we just talk about the game. And we were pretty unanimous in agreeing that it should have been a foul to Hibs. So if you agree with that, then come on. If you disagree and you think maybe Marshall was at fault, or the defence could have been a bit less naive. I think naive was the word that Craig Levine used to describe our defendants. He thought we should have had somebody in between their forwards to stop them basically impeding Marshall. And again, do you need to legislate for folk making fouls? So, Colin, you there?
I'm here, mate. I've got 5-10 minutes. That's all I've got.
That's all right. Make them count then.
Aye. Well, I'm just here to help you out, Save you down on your arse.
That's all right. Kaiser's come on as well. Kaiser, you there, mate?
Oh. How you doing? You all right?
Aye, good. Dying on my arse, apparently.
As always.
As always. Fucking standard. This is why we didn't end on a transfer deadline. Can you imagine? Fucking hell. Kaiser, did you... I don't care if you had a chance to listen to the episode that Colin and I put out this morning, but
I'm halfway through it.
Good, well done for lasting that long. Miss folk will have switched off by now. What did you make of the game last night?
I know, like, obviously, I thought we started off really well. We're playing some decent football right in Ross County's face, and we've done the same as what Hibs have been guilty all season, just not been able to capitalise. I think the VAR's a valid point, but we should have been fucking well out of sight by that point. I think it got to a stage in the second half and we started to kind of play after him a wee bit, or a wee bit too deep for my liking, and I think Lee Johnston's got a hand in that with the subs. I thought McGeady should have been off a lot quicker. I thought he could have made some changes. Probably like McGeady come off. I just thought he could have freshened the squad up a wee bit or made some tactical changes to kind of keep us on the front foot. Whereas, kind of a latter stages of the second half, where we were back to the kind of our goals, and you seen it happening. I mean, I thought we done well with the set pieces for a change, especially in the first half. I thought we defended them really well. But in the second half, you kind of seen the goal coming. We all know the fucking story. It's you invite them into the box enough, give away silly fouls and give away possession through shitty passes, and you're bringing it into you. But I thought in the first half and early stages of the second half, I thought we should have been out of sight. We could have had another couple of goals, I thought, and then the VAR doesn't even come into it. But the VAR's absolutely fucking farcical. Like, it's just, I mean, I think what the problem is here is it's not so much the VAR system, it's the guys that are operating it. It's the same shitty refs that we had last season to contend with. It's the same fannies that were also refs last season that are sitting. And I mean, just to go to the screen and to have the guys there to kind of as a safety net to stop these fucking stupid calls. And I mean, the Marshall got fucking bundled into his goal. He got an elbow to the face, and it's just ridiculous. Like, for him, for the fact that there's literally three other people having a fucking look at that and then deciding it's a goal. But as I said, that to me is an excuse. I damn no one for excuses. I think we didn't do ourselves any favours by how we set up in the second half, and we let Ross County come on to us. We should have been well out of sight in the first half. We fucking blew them away. Played some really good stuff, and it's disappointing because we could be fucking sitting. We could be sitting fourth now. That's a bitter pill that we've had to swallow.
I think I saw a tweet. There's Chris Finn on Twitter. Chris Finn, normally I agree with what he's tweeting. He tweeted to sort of say, kind of countering the point that you're making there, Kaiser, about we should have been out of sight anyway. Is if we'd won that game 1-0, and 1-0 up in Dingwall was like a cracking result, and we've probably done enough to win it 1-0. And we would all been saying that was a good win, and it feels like it's been taken away from us by that decision. Do you have like any sympathy with that viewpoint?
Aye, I do, 100% do. But Hibs aren't going to get decisions. I think, well, I get where you're coming from, but I think we can't just get one. We can't go one goal up and then switch off, or have some
Yeah.
players that are maybe towards the fucking latter stages of their career still on the pitch when we need a bit of energy and we need a bit of focus towards the closing stages of the game. And I think Lee Johnson's been guilty of that this season, that when he does need to refresh and change his tactics and fucking look to do something different, he just gets caught like a rabbit in the headlights and he doesn't fuck all.
But Kaiser, the Ross County didn't look like scoring. They did not look like scoring until they bundled. I mean, we gave a stupid corner away, bad communication. But other than that, it's a
Aye,
fucking
but we,
foul.
well,
Like, there was nothing. They were never going to score apart from that.
Aye, apart from that, but like, have you seen in the second half, mate? We started to play a lot deeper than we were in the second half. In the second half, we were playing a lot deeper, and obviously fatigue will come into it because we were charging at them. But we gave them that opportunity by playing so deep.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion on it. I think we done them a favour by going from the front foot to the back foot just because players were knackered.
Maybe. I just think it's like it's just cloud king. But we should have come away with a 1-0. We didn't deserve to score more than one, really. I don't think we had many more chances, but that's a foul all the time. Now, my problem with the refs, like, just to back up what you're saying, is they need to just like go and buy refs in for somewhere else, because these boys are getting paid a fortune. Like, they're on more money than half the players in the league. These refs, and you see, I don't know if you've seen it, but you see the St Johnstone red card at the weekend got overturned the day after VAR gave it, and then after Stuart Dougal sat on the BBC online thing they do on a Monday, backing the referees up, saying that it was a red card. Like, they just fucking circle the wagons and all agree with each other, rather than actually sit and go, "You made a fucking arse of that." Like that, how we ever got to learn for their mistakes? They just fucking agree with each other all the time until somebody tells them they're wrong. Eventually, it's just that they're absolutely hopeless, and that's all VAR showed us is they are hopeless. It was nothing to do with that they only got one angle or one view. It's that they didn't apply the same rules that every other country seem to apply.
I think that's one of the biggest things with VAR. It's highlighted.
Well, my argument about VAR, as we said on the thing, was this should sort it out, because now it takes all their excuses away. Well, it's taking all their excuses away, and all we can see now is they're shite.
Aye. I'm going to bring Dave in. Dave, how's it going?
I'm good. Just following on the point you touched on there. I think on any other day, a nice, lovely day up there, it's a tight wee park, and they're a mob. We've got creative players. The weather's howling. Was it set up for Youan to have a fantastic night, or McCurdy? I thought he took his goal great. I think coming down for their 1-0 is a great result, and it'd be what we've been crying for all season, our defence just doing its job. But any other keeper, well, Celtic keeper, Rangers keeper, Hearts keeper, that's not given that goal. It's like, I can't believe we've not got an absolute club outrage at the amount of wrong decisions we've been on. I didn't think we played that badly. I thought we were good. A real disappointment when Nisbet had gone off, and kind of McCurdy looked a wee bit kind of getting wound up by them. But they're just a mob, and I think we can really think we're hard done by last night if you take everything into account.
They really targeted McCurdy. Like even you look at the one that when he'd been booked already, and the boys pulled him down as he's running away from him. The free kick went against McCurdy, and they were all at him. And then at the end of the game, they were all having a go at him as well. I think they targeted him and thought he was maybe a wee route to them getting us down to 10 men. I thought they were a disgrace, actually, some of the stuff that the Ross County players were up to last night.
Definitely. I mean, they're just not a very nice football team to watch. And you add in that weather, and I just think we were quite unlucky to not get 1-0. And there's nothing wrong with getting 1-0. How many times have Rangers scored late in a game this season to can win by a goal or whatever? And there's nothing wrong with that on a hard night when you're when it kind of like it's not a lovely surface on a big massive park where you can move the ball and let your creative players go and take people on. They just absolutely congested the box and made it difficult to get that final ball in the park. And I didn't think there was an awful lot wrong with our performance last night, to be honest.
Hi, fair enough. Stay on, John. I'm going to bring in, Dave, I'm going to bring in John next. John, how's it going?
Not bad. I didn't see the game last night. I didn't have a stream or anything, so I've just seen it coming through on the phone. And the sort of the 1-1, you're thinking, oh no, we've dropped the lead again. I must admit, even Ross County today are taking the mickey out of it. I mean, they put a tweet out talking about the best corner ever.
Yes.
Which is from the other side. I think you've got to go back to the days of Baker and Riley since you scored those goals. Sort of the goalie goes into the back of net with everything. It's one of those decisions where you've got a referee who has bottled it on the day, and it comes back to that question of, is it a referee that's... I hate to say this. Robbie Nielsen mentioned it at the start of the season with that stupid Celtic game with VAR, that referees aren't making decisions. Mm-hmm. So the referee doesn't make a decision, and you've then got somebody in VAR not sure if they can overturn the non-decision by the referee because is it clear and obvious. But there's just... The question for me with VAR is that we seem to be trying to squeeze the referees that we've got running around the pitches into the VAR room. Why do they have to be the same people? Why haven't we just gone out and got 6 teams of 3 people who all they do is VAR? They don't referee matches. They have to have an understanding of the rules.
Just get a retired ref.
There's probably more...
Retired refs.
Yeah, retired refs who have got to grade 4 but got a leg injury and couldn't progress. Yeah, you have to understand the rules of the game. You have to know how it's going to work. But you don't have to be somebody who could go and do the 4 times 40-minute second runs and all this sort of stuff. Get somebody who gets used to the equipment, gets used to the team round about them, and knows how that side of the system works.
Can you imagine,
Whereas
John, can you imagine how bad the refereeing standard is all over in the league now, that the Premier League's taken 2 of the better ones, in inverted commas, better ones, to do a Premier League match? That just impacts Championship, League 1, League 2. You're getting the next level down again for what they should be getting, or normally would get.
Well, that's the thing. The pictures that I've seen suggest that the referee was looking straight at it. The credit. Ross County have got away with it, but you've got the run through the back, and I put the picture up because the picture's doing the rounds. At the point where Marshall's going to get his punch on it, they're all over him. They time it perfectly that he gets hit as the ball's going over his head, which takes 5 centimetres off his jump, and he doesn't get the ball. But VAR's there. But this is the question for me: is that make VAR a specialist position. Don't make it just one of the other refs. Recruit specifically into that, rather than just swap it out and you've got somebody who's coming through the league, so we'll give you your shot of VAR. You've no done it. No. By this point, we should have people who have done it week in, week out since December.
Aye, I think also we had you talk about the referees not wanting to make a decision because they've got the safety net of VAR there. That was a new referee last night. Like at this level, at first Premiership game, I believe, that he's taken. So you could see he's maybe looked at it and thought, okay, I'll let VAR have a word, and that absolves me any responsibility of it. But the boy on VAR hadn't refereed the game for ages either. Like he's just. And Youan Wilson for Down the Slope, he's in one of the WhatsApp chats. He made a really good point that earlier in the season, it seemed to be that VAR was getting the referees to look at incidents all the time. And it could be that they've decided that they were overusing it, and so they've taken a step back on it. But now what's happened is going too far the other way, and you've got like a clear incident like that, where VAR's not even going to the referee to say, have a look yourself.
They've got to look at goals, though, haven't they?
They've got
to look at goals.
Aye, they have to. They look at every goal. That's why I couldn't get my head around it, Cole.
And it's a foul. My understanding is they've not got to look for clear and obvious errors. They've got to review to see if there was foul play in the lead up to the goal, including handballs by any attackers.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's an automatic review. So the referee and the VAR have got it wrong. It's not what we want to be speaking about. I mean, the last 3 games up at Ross County have been really tight. Porteous got us a win the last time. They got some lucky scuffed cross goal last season when we had the replay game after the COVID cancellation, when the Boyle got sent off at the end of the match. I mean, it's one of those things where it's always been a hard ground for us. So yeah, the 1-0, holding them, not really giving them a chance. That was a good performance. I mean, they've turned over both Rangers and Celtic up there in recent times. So no, I think that there's a real thing with the VAR being looked at to say that's a problem. But I thought that Johnson actually called it out at the end. Did he not say something along the lines of, "I don't know how it works and I don't trust it anymore"?
He did, aye, he did.
I think Marshall should have lay in the net until they overturned it almost, because that's what other goalies would do. They would just lie their head in their face.
I think we don't have that dark arts side of our game enough, and that's what they need to get. I mean, as you say, had that been up at the other end, I mean, goalies can get as much treatment as they want. They don't get taken off the pitch.
By the way, remember that? Just remember me about the other keeper. Mountain, who was running through Matthew, and he stuck his leg out as if to say, didn't he come?
McCurdy, I think.
Was McCurdy on by that time? I thought it was earlier in the game.
I think he was. Was it? Maybe it was Youan.
And he just. It was in the first half, and he stuck his leg out, kind of to almost like give him a kick on the way past. They didn't catch him, but it's just like snidey, sneaky bastard.
He was snidey all night, wasn't he, Laidlaw? Like, considering he was ex-Hibs, he was fair getting on about folk and shoving people here and there, and the referee should have got on top of that stuff early doors, didn't he? But again, that's if you've not got a strong ref, they get away with all that kind of stuff, even waving the imaginary cards and that.
Aye.
They were them. All right, so I think we're pretty much agreed on the VAR point. We signed or announced the signing Matthew Hopper or Hop. We think we decided Hop. I listened. I watched it. I watched the YouTube clip. I think Hibs had shared or somebody put it in our group. And the commentators they were calling him Hopper, so we might have to devise that. Kaiser, you know anything about this boy? Would you think?
Nah, I've still got kind of a post-traumatic Muller disorder, so I don't know. It's just kind of I hope he does well, and I wasn't keen on the kind of a fashion photos and that Hibs put up, but anyway, no, I hope he gets a chance. I think with the second name pronunciation, we're back to Kukovic grounds again, so. No, I hope I've seen the kind of the same videos, but it's always the highlights reel. I mean, if you do your backyard with a football, I'm sure I could make you, well, maybe not you, but a decent 10-second highlight reel. But nah, I've seen some of his international stuff, and he looks good, but it's just come to Hibs and score goals, mate. That's the bottom line. But it'll be good to see if he makes an impact. So we'll just need to put a wee reservation on it now till he gets up and running.
And John, what do you think of your transfer activity over the January window now that it's closed and we look to pretty much done our business? What do you think of the shape of the squad?
I think we've sort of shut our eyes and crossed our fingers that we didn't get any injuries at centre half.
Yeah.
If I'm really, I mean, it's the really hard thing to judge. I mean, maybe I give people too much latitude. I don't know what deals they went for and what fell through, why. I mean, I don't want the club to ever. I mean, they seem to be all the talk is they pay too much money for players that aren't good enough, and so when they come out of transfer window where they haven't just got loads, but we do feel like a centre half short. I mean, you feel as if the 19s can provide players higher up the pitch. I mean, Megwa and McIntyre are maybe at full-back positions, but centre-back just feels a bit light, and it's just waiting to see. As I say, Fish and Handling seem to have come together a bit steadier. But that's my worry. I think they've done okay. The fact that we've seen the youngsters getting on the pitch recently is probably the right thing. Clearly, we're going to get there next week and hope we beat. Was it Borussia we've got next week in the game next week? So
Aye.
that would be my thinking, is that we're letting the young players further, which is fine. Centre back's going to hurt us potentially. All you need is a Handling injury and we're struggling.
Well, the boy Egan Riley that came in, he's in his interviews he was saying he's a centre half to trade. That it was his preferred position. I think the general view that he's been brought in as a full back.
Yeah.
So that would give us Handling, Fish, and what did I say his name was, Egan Riley.
Yeah. Miller has always been touted as a potential, but again, I've never quite got over his first half at Falkirk. I mean, where they all looked like sort of scared fishies and type stuff, and they just couldn't cope with it. He's coming back from injury, and he seems to be a bit fit and likes to tackle, but I want a bit of a calmer head there if he's going to go in at centre back.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if my nerves would take Miller at centre half. Now, Colin, what were you thinking about our centre half options?
What do I think? I think we're light there.
Aye.
We've got Handling and Fish. Handling's apparently carrying an injury, although he seems to be fine. And then we might have a guy that seems to be able to play 3 or 4 positions that's on loan. That's all we've really got. No idea about the lad in the 19s. I've not really seen, but I've only seen him play a handful of times, so I don't know if he's ready yet or not. So we're really light there.
Aye.
Hopefully, no more injuries. If we get another injury, we're a bit snookered. We're playing Stevenson in there or something.
I was going to say, fortunately, we've not had very many injuries the last couple of seasons, so we'll probably can count on them being fine, but that's not really the case, is it? So who did we bring in? Egan Riley, Hopper, and Jago was the other signing. Have I missed anybody?
I think Jago's been a success. I mean, he feels like they've brought in the right experienced player in the right position, and he just plays a nice, uncomplicated game in that role. I mean, which is what we've been crying out for. So yeah, give credit for that one. And they've moved players on. I mean, if we're going to get youngsters who are getting experience elsewhere and players that are no longer this rumoured group that were training later in the day type stuff, if that's sort of disappearing, fine. But yeah, hopefully we don't have to put in a second goalie and put Marshall in at centre back or something stupid like that later in the season.
We'll see what happens. Kaiser, what do you think of this Johnson coming out ahead of the Aberdeen game? It was, when we mentioned about the project now that we seem to be having with what the club's all about is bringing the youth players through. Are you behind that, you think? Do you think that's like a legitimate approach that Hibs are taking, or are they sort of sugarcoating just the fact that we've had to shed a load of folk out the team?
Actually, I really liked that. I mean, I've not been a big fan of Lee Johnson's post-match interviews, and I don't know if it was because we won. It might have had a hand in it, and we won 6-0. That might have had another hand in it, but no, I thought he came across very well, and he's right what he's saying. It is a success story, and I think Campbell has come on leaps and bounds, and he's brilliant. Like, for a midfielder, he's kind of a assist rate, his pace. He's some player. He's kind of he's easily our best player this year. Out of everybody, as far as I'm concerned. So things like that. And Porto in that as well. Like you've got to look at things like and go, well, where are they going? Hibs have always been, apart from recent years, getting the young boys in, giving them a chance on the pitch, and they get sold on, especially under Petrie. But anyway, no, it is. It's kudos to the guys in the academy, and and obviously they're doing the right thing. But I think there seems, in my perspective, is that's all great and all rosy in the garden. But saying that we're fifth now, I'm not going to be too negative and things like that. But I think more focus needs to get put into the first team, and I think the transfer window there, I don't think we showed up as much as we could have, and I know there'll be reasons for it, no bailing through and that, but even with the youngsters like Laidlaw, O'Connor and things like that, them getting a wee shot in the first team, like that's decent. Josh O'Connor didn't kind of a look out place, he looked like he had a decent game. So I think we need more of that. I think we need some of the young boys getting a bit of a swap room, but I think what Lee Johnson's been guilty is obviously sticking to the same players week in, week out, irrespective of performance. That's just how I've seen it. I've seen some players some weeks that I thought you shouldn't even have the fucking topo and never mind be on the pitch. But I think that's just been fair on the results. But it's definitely been, it is a success story. At the end of the day, we're bringing young guys in, training them up to a level, getting them first team experience, and they're going away to English clubs and they're doing well. Like Josh Doigan that as well. Just to kind of a shout him out, he's obviously developed and went over to Italy and things like that. So it'll encourage other players to come to Hibs and hopefully follow in the same footsteps in that. It's just obviously impatience gets the better of you when you're losing games and you're maybe not as high up the table as you'd like to be.
I know. See, Livingston and Hearts are both getting beaten away, so it would have been a good winning last night. Would have been an even better result, eh?
Aye. It's frustrating. There's part of me, Connor, this is where you kind of folk think you're like kind of conspiracy tinfoil hat thing. The fact that we had the chance to kind of go and close the gap on Hearts and to a lesser extent Rangers, right? But Hearts, you get a decision like that last night, and it's almost like you think, fucking, folk will try to not let that happen for us. That's what it feels like. Anyway, right? That's enough of my conspiracy theories. But Chris, you there? How's it going, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, bud. Good. Just kind of following on from Kaiser's point, I totally agree with him about kind of the homegrown kind of under-18s team. But I mentioned this just as a message on the Ramble last night. If we just totally binned this whole kind of scouting network from foreign young players, is that Steve Keen's kind of whole job and all of that, bringing these guys in and bringing them onto the Scotland game, is that gone now?
It's a really interesting point, right? I was listening to Radio Scotland last night coming back through Collins after watching the game, and they had, I can't remember the boy's name, the Hearts, effectively the director of football, but I don't think that's his job title. And he was Savage, aye. He was talking about the difficulties in signing players and where you have to look now, like go further afield to get them, right? Effectively, the approach that Hibs have taken, and he was saying the impact of Brexit means that English clubs can't go to Europe for players because the players that the lower league clubs can get, the ones that we can compete with financially, they can't get players in that will meet the criteria for a work permit coming for the EU. So they're going to for British players, which is why you will see Aberdeen picking up fees for some of their players, or Nisbet getting offered, or is getting offered $3 million or whatever for Nisbet. Poach's going for money. It's because the English clubs now are looking at Scotland as a viable market, right? But also the players who are good enough that meet the criteria are precious. So the clubs that can spend more than us are going to sign them first. So you're having to go further afield to try and find gems that you can bring in and hope hit the ground running.
I mean, I totally like the. It was a totally brilliant approach, I thought. But what seems to have happened, I think we were told that we were missing a generation of players, so we had to go out and buy a new generation of players to meet that. Have they just been so shite and not performed that we've now, not necessarily a generation, but a year group has now moved up and are now ready? So that whole project, it just didn't work. So we've actually got boys ready to go now, and it's come from the under-18s that are better than the other ones.
Well, I think they put folk out on loan. This is why it's like the strategy was good. We spoke about this before with the transfers. The strategy, I think, is sound. The execution of the strategy has been a fucking car crash. Whether that's the players that they've identified to bring in, haven't they been identified? So if you're going to go and spend that money, And you look at Melkerson as an example, right? Melkerson, we spent, was it about $250,000 on him?
Yeah,
Maybe a bit more than that?
it was. I think it was like 400, 500,000 or something like that.
Four or 500,000. Huge money for Hibs, right? I mean, I think the last player I can remember spending 500,000 on was Keith Wright. And you have to go back quite a while before you find that. So to spend that on somebody who's meant to be like your great white hope, who comes in and a year down the line is out on loan to somebody else, they've got an option to buy him, and at best you're going to make, like, if they take up the option to buy, it's a 7-figure sum. No guarantee we'll actually get that. They might negotiate that down, or they might not want him.
And one guy I mentioned earlier on, Steve Keane, does he not have a role in that? I mean, we've not really heard from him or seen him, or I know he's doing, obviously, I think he stands at the sidelines with the kind of under-18s or whatever it's called now, playing in Europe. But he's not, I've not seen him, and that was all the boys that he was meant to bring in and kind of make them ready for the Scottish game.
Aye, well, it was the whole thing. So you got even like Del Ferry and the boy Johnson that's just gone on loan to back, club in America again. Melkerson, Hauger, like what was happening with him? He's come in. He's nowhere near the first team.
There can't be enough players to play in a team for that.
Aye, so you've got just players kicking their heels. It doesn't feel like it's been a good use of time and money, does it?
Not at all. Not at all. But I wonder if they're waiting for the director of football to come in to have a review of that as well.
Interesting. Colin, what do you think that's one of the priorities for the director of football when they come in?
To sort the development team out?
Aye.
No, I think the first team's a priority.
Right.
The development team doesn't exist. In my eyes, like, there's not been one. They've not played any games. Folks say they have, but it's like under 18s, under 19s games they've played. They basically had a good under 19 side with a handful of boys that were a year older. Some of them were in the first team squad, and the rest got punted out on loan. There is no real development team. That's why we've been asking for Steve Keane and that to come on, but to try and explain what the actual thinking is behind it and follow it through what we said at the start, but can't get anywhere with that.
I totally agree with you, Colin. Totally agree with you. But I think it's a massive area that was punted as this big part of our strategy.
It was.
I think we need to go back. I think we need to go back to that strategy as well. I kind of dig it out of whatever that strategy that they kind of put together and begin to ask, what the fuck?
Yeah, I think the first team need the first team recruitment will need sorted first. Like, we're waiting on a centre half for about fucking 4 windows now. So
100%, 100%.
Kaiser, what are your thoughts on the whole development squad thing?
Aye, as I said, it's a good bit of revenue in for the club. Like, I mean, our kind of a record transfer was Scott Brown, wasn't it? 4 million to Celtic. That was all for the transfer team when he was in the team with Kev Thompson, Stevie Fletcher, and all that. That's when we kind of had a really good youth setup. I mean, you look at that kind of is it a classy 2001 or whatever you call it. The amount of revenue that we capitalised on that, and I mean, I know for the first team it gives benefits, but money wise as well. I mean, I think our highest transfer out, I think we paid. Is it Ulysses De La Cruz for $700,000? That's the most, and I think for a team that's what to kind of be sitting in third place and go to Europe and things like that, I think we need to up our fucking game a wee bit, to be honest with you. But no, I would definitely agree that the development side is an intrinsic important part of the club, but just now where it's sitting with the first team and priorities, first team's got to come first, but to have a decent first team and not to have to pay crazy money for players, you need a good development setup.
I think, John, I was listening, like I said, to Radio Scotland last night, and they were talking about, I know that I would want to hold Hearts up as a great example, but the profile player that Hearts have signed, likes of Shanklin, Snodgrass, what's the striker's name that's injured?
Boyce,
that's it. Players in that, Craig Gordon, kind of folk that have been around the block, but at like a decent level, where they're not really that as invested in the youth as we went for, but they'll maybe bleed 1 or 2 youngsters in, but the core is having like high quality experienced players. Do you think there's a a case to be made for us taking the same approach and just try to have the development squad and aim to have maybe 1 or 2 players come through into the first team rather than five or 6 youth players.
I've always been interested to understand how many players they actually expect to come through. I mean, I'd have thought you're looking at 1 player every couple of years. I mean, but you've got to then put 15 players into a team to get that for 2 years. So I think you're always going to keep your community roots. You're not going to get the feedback on Porteous. I mean, Doig is a really good example of not being rated by another team. You know what I mean? And being able to pick up good. I mean, there's that sort of model that you can run as well. I don't want to get to the stage where you're hoping that we sort of follow the Hearts model. I'm of that idea where we're not anywhere near as bad as they think we are, and they're nowhere near as good as they think.
Correct.
And I saw a video tonight of Hearts fans outside saying that they're going to win the title in 25 or 26. You know what I mean? Putting themselves on video, identifiable and stuff like this, and clearly men who, whilst they couldn't remember a League Cup win, you know what I mean, could probably remember the relegations of the late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's that sort of idea where, I think there's a delusion and there's a bit of luck as well. I mean, we look at the game last night, we win 1-0. I mean, Jack Ross was brilliant at it for that season where we just got the goals at the right time. And there's that bit of luck. So I think that we can overstate how good something is. And I think that's probably what's happening at Hearts at the moment. I think they've had a bit of luck with players and luck with the rest of the league not being that good.
Cole made that point on the podcast as well. I mean, Hearts going on like they're having the best fucking season ever, and they're playing nowhere near out of sight, and we're having kind of a season where we were talking about sacking managers and all this kind of stuff. So, there probably is a degree of overstating both how good they are and how bad we are.
I mean, Josh Campbell is a good example at the moment of a player who has come through. He's next in the line behind Porteous, but everybody, we have that remembrance of the golden generation. Now, I mean, when I was growing up, we had a young guy called Collins who came through. I mean, then a young guy called Miller came through. I mean, we brought experience in. I mean, in sort of the 80s and 90s, and we had the occasional player that came through, but we weren't bringing in 2 or 3 a season in.
Aye.
But the expenditure now for that is hugely more. I mean, they're not like paying at pinky playing fields or anything like that. We've got a training centre, we've got strength and condition coaches, we've got like a full programme. So we shouldn't be expecting 1 or 2 if we're putting that money in. Otherwise, you go down the St Johnstone model. I think they just cancelled it all and just put it all in the park.
Do you think with Hibs, though, we've got a bit of an issue with identifying the kind of a stars of the team with contracts like with Porteous, classic example, started to find a good bit of form, should have nailed them down with a new contract, which would have, never mind 500k, you're talking maybe a couple of million, 3 million for him if we had them under a decent contract length. Now, Josh Campbell, what's he, 2025? And he's flying now, but do you think Hibs have got that kind of a fucking contract IQ to obviously identify these players and get them nailed down with kind of a half decent contract so that they are fully capitalising when they actually decide to move on to their next challenge?
Well, we got Deutsch sorted.
Aye.
It's funny because you look at the players where we have done it, like Deutsch or Doyle Hayes. I mean, Doyle Hayes was in the door 2 minutes and they got an extension. And you probably look at them and say that they're no good examples out of doing it right. The flip side is what we did with Josh Doig because we extended his contract. Martin Boyle, I thought we handled his contract perfectly because we bought out his buyout fee pretty much to make sure we got as much money as we could when he was sold. And I think Hibs expected to be able to do that with Porteous as well. I think they expected him to say, all right, if we bumped up his wage enough, with a promise that he could go. Obviously, he never accepted it.
Boyle was at the other end of his career, though. I think that's the difference. And I think he wanted to stay. I mean, Rachel was here and all of that his whole life. It wasn't until that big money move came, and he was only away for 5 minutes anyway.
Yeah. But still, we did it with the contract. We did it with Josh Doig as well. We bumped his contract when we could, so we got the maximum for him.
Matty, can I jump in on a question?
Of course.
See the development team that we've got. So we brought in Melkerson and Hoiga and all of that. Did we bring in any defenders?
McClelland,
like centre back.
McClelland, he came in for the development team and went straight out on loan to Cove. I've really been following how he's been getting on there, but he was a centre half that came in that had a bit of fanfare and one for the future.
Because that's the area we've not replaced at all. We've not done anything really until like Jackson or whatever it was. We've really not brought in too many other than Rocky. But I would have thought that would have been like a key area that they wanted to bring in the next purchase.
Aye, well, I think is it the boy Blaney? Is that his name? Is he one of the ones that's touted for big things? It's in the youth team now.
Okay.
But I don't know. We seem to have like a blind spot for the centre halves now. I think the issue with Hibs, where it's been evident, is maybe not so much what you were saying, Kaiser, about extending the contracts at the right time. It's actually been finding the right players in the first place. Because we seem to have spent an awful lot of money on folk who have had little to no impact on the team. There's a couple of exceptions. Obviously, Nisbet's come in and done well. We spent money on him. But beyond that, who could you say that we spent money on that's given us great value in the last couple of years? Anyone?
The thing is, are you going back to sort of the Newell thing? But I don't know if we paid any money for Newell. I mean, a couple of years ago when he came in.
Newell, I think we picked up on a free, if I remember. I mean, that's good value, I suppose.
Yeah, Dodge came in, but again, I think he was either a low money, but we've only really got one season out of him.
Aye. I mean, it's no great when you look at it and look at our transfer activity. Even the ones that have been, like, you wouldn't argue with McGuinness was probably one that most of us would have said was a good signing to make. Because his injuries, he's not really provided any value at all. Maybe McGinn, we have to go back to McGinn where you've got like some proper value for money.
Maybe. I think one of the things that I'm just sort of going through my head there is that when clearly we've got a director of football at some point, it'll be interesting to see what their answers are. I mean, clearly he's got a very CEO bounce back questions last year when you asked about the recruitment and whether it's been good enough.
Mm-hmm.
You just hope that if he's got a chance to speak to somebody who's a fresh face who's come in, that there's a bit more honesty, because I think that if Ron Gordon was to sort of do that cross-platform discussion with the various podcasts just now, I mean, he wouldn't survive very long saying, "Oh, can you give me examples?" I mean, he's used that trick once on you. I mean, and I think everybody's set up for that. We know that you've now done 4 or 5 windows, and the centre back is the issue. Now, Darren McGregor was a brilliant centre half for us. Did you want him to dribble out? No, but he won stuff in the air. He was honest. He would the ball would be put out for the throw-ins and all this sort of stuff. So that level of honesty doesn't seem to be the sort of centre back that we're prepared to bring in. And I just wonder whether there's just a bit of us are putting the wrong figures into whatever scouting computer they're looking at.
Do you know? I think they're being a wee bit too scrupulous, so considering for last season to this season, what we've brought in, 4 and a bit million in transfers, and what's been the expenditure for some players. Because as far as I can see it, most of the players that we've brought in are free transfers or loans. So is there no a lack of investment there at a higher level? As far as I'm reading it, just on a purely numbers perspective, is there no? We've brought in 4 million, but we've no fucking spent anywhere near that. And if we want to get somewhere as a club, I know we're going on about development, and that's obviously one of the avenues to success. But if you're only bringing in 2 players every couple of years, then you need to pay for quality. Like it's quantity, quality. It's one of the measures. And if you're bringing in 4 and a bit million and no fucking paying money for players, then I don't expect. We've done well though with the free transfers, so it must be working. the whole scouting and transfer kind of aside of it, it's very scrupulous how they've done it. But to me, I think they could have put a wee bit more money into Hibs and got a bit more quality in.
Well,
I wonder if the Boyle thing's kind of throwing things out. I don't think they expected to get Boyle back, and I just wonder if that writing off that 1.5 million has kind of blown things out the water, and then we've not had the benefit of him.
Aye, I think the Boyle one was definitely because it's an opportunistic transfer to make, but I think it threw the plans for the spending and the budget. Mason's sat patiently waiting to come in. Mason, how you doing?
I'm alright, yous.
Good, thanks. What do you want to say?
Well, I was just thinking, if you think about it, we've not brought a left-footed centre-half in since Liam Fontaine. And when was this? 2014? It's embarrassing. Utterly embarrassing that we're crying out for a centre-half because we've got Porteous away, who we knew was going away. Rocky that is now, that was a blow that we weren't expecting, right, fair enough. They replaced one for that CJ boy, but we've got a striker in because we've got about 9 forwards now. We're not needing a striker. We've got one of the best strikers in Scotland right now, who I think is going to get a call up soon. Youan, who's now producing goals, right? Fair enough, McCurdy's no, but you've got goals in the midfield through Campbell. Cadden of opportunity comes up somewhere somehow from the right hand side, and McGuinness, when he's playing good, can score goals. We're not needing midfield. We're not needing attacking midfielders and strikers. We're needing fullbacks. We've never replaced Louis Stevenson. Never. Cabraha had one couple of good games. Johnston came into mind when he first started the season, and then maybe Rangers in the first half in the 3-2, but Cadden, Miller's not had a chance. I think McClellan shouldn't have went out on loan. I think McClellan should have stayed because Hallen's not good enough either. Hallen's been needing replaced and all, but the signings in the summer, we signed about how many? 12 plus? And how many get in the squad right now? Not a lot, you would say. Youan, that's about it. Marshall was a Maloney signing in last January, as we've seen. It came in the summer. But how does this club actually move forward in signing people? Because it's just scattergun approach. Anyone who's available through everywhere just comes in. But what is wrong with this league and you can get people from this league from lower clubs like we've done with McGuinness. Look how that worked out. Scored goals in Europe for us. Aye, we fucked that up with the defence, fair enough. But Nisbet, lower league. Cadden from Motherwell when he was there. We knew Cadden was good at Motherwell. But we're signing players from the Championship because Lee Johnson was in the Championship. Right. He was in Sunderland. We've not tried to sit. Sunderland players were clearly not good enough. He could have brought people in from there if he thought they were good enough, but they weren't. McGeady, that's about it.
I'm not sure financially I kind of ken how much Sunderland are paying their players now, but I'm not sure whether we.
Well, you think there used to be a Premier club, so they must be paying some money. I ken they went down to League One, but Sunderland are a big club. They've got 30 plus thousand in the stadium.
Aye,
that's a good area.
Making, though. Like how do we attract a Sunderland player? Like if there's a player that's in their team, they'll be getting paid more than they're getting paid at Hibs.
They pay a lot more than us, and have continued.
Their players will get paid a fucking week. What the Hibs players will get paid a month.
Absolutely.
Surely there was players that he didn't play that were in the youth team and all. He went on about youth. I like to bring youth players through. We've been screaming out for Josh O'Connor, Ethan Laidlaw, McIntyre for donkeys. We've known about them, and he's only playing them now because of injuries. Gave them a chance, in my opinion. Aberdeen, you only gave them a chance because we were 4-0 up. If we were not 4-0 up, they were not coming on.
But we saw in that game that they're not quite ready yet. They're definitely, like, you've got Stevenson bombing past them. They're not. I think they're brilliant in prospects, but they're not ready.
I wouldn't say they're ready, but they deserve more minutes off the bench, except from bringing them on in the 80 plus minute. They're not going to make an impact. We've seen that they're doing really well in their youth team. They're in the fucking that Champions League thing that is going to be brilliant. It's going to be brilliant for the club. It'll be brilliant revenue. It'll maybe put Hibs on the map of we've got really good young talent. We need to start using them because how the likes of Ryan Porteous, Josh Doig, how did they come through? It wasn't just buying them
See
through
if you look where Lee Johnson is though, and he's on a shaky peg. If I'm on a fucking shaky peg as a gaffer, I'm not dependent on a 17-year-old to come in and do my job.
100%. I'm with you and that Kaiser.
I get that.
I think that
going back to the start of the season, if you're talking about centre back, we did bring in Rocky, and we all thought it was a bit of a crazy decision and all that.
That was the best way to bring him in and all. It was so funny.
but if you look at the start of the season, if we're looking at positions, I do think we were still light there. But you had Rocky, Hanlon, Porteous. We heard that Lewis Miller, is that his name? Lewis Miller could play that position as well.
He's not a fullback though, Lewis Miller.
Miller's a fullback, but I think he can play centre half.
And we brought in Fish as well. That's a fair number of bodies to be for one position. If we're also expecting to maybe give the youth some time and all of that.
I would say left back is an important position.
But we brought in Chabraya and he looked brilliant, and I still think there's a player there.
I think, but aye.
He's just not playing away. Like he needs to get in the side of it and show it.
His form dropped when his dad died, which is obviously tragic, and that's probably still obviously in his mind of doubt that he's still not recovering from that either, and not getting a good run of games.
But playing
devil's
advocate, if I was in recruitment at Hibs, I've brought in some decent players there. They've either got injured or their form has dropped off a cliff.
Aye, and that's down to the manager, you would say, but also themselves.
The injuries and their own personal life. I can't put that down.
Well, not that, but like their form. Their form's down to either you can blame the manager for that, of maybe not playing in the right position because we've criticised them not playing Campbell in the right position at times, and then maybe Cabraha not getting the right amount of games in a continuous run.
I don't know. I just 100% think that if we had got that decision last night, that we wouldn't be talking about this tonight.
I don't know. Like I think it's still, because we still would have reviewed the transfer window to see like how the squad was looking, and I think the centre half position is one that's been called out for a while. I think it's interesting with the no playing the youth players, and this is where kind of going back to Johnson, bringing it up, sort of making out as if this has been the plan all along. But part of the reason I think for doing the big clear out that we've had was to try and create a wee bit of space to give the young boys a chance. So instead of having all these guys in front of them, for the first team training or the first team squads, he's got them at the club, out on loan or whatever, or transferred out altogether, and that's allowed them to bring in the likes of O'Connor and Laidlaw, McIntyre, etc. into the squad. Murray Johnson he got a new contract, so he's now like the second choice goalkeeper.
Do you think they're going to get a new contract, the young players?
I think the club will offer it. Sign it will depend on who else is sniffing about them. I think
they've been unlucky as well, because Hibs this season to date, we've not been in a position where we're 2-3 goals up and we can give people chances, and I think Cabraja suffered for that. I think there's a lot of players that Tavares that we've just not been in a kind of a decent position in the game, that well, let's face it, most of the fucking time we've been 1-0 down for a good part of it. So we've just not had that ability to let anybody get on and get a run, and that's kind of affected the diversity of the team, because you've got to kind of go for it every game, because every game's his last in the last 3-4 games. So I mean, so I think that kind of comes into it as well, that we've not been comfortable enough to give people a run and trial things and experiment things, and that's how he's been quite rigid with his selections.
Aye. I think that's a fair point, and you're right. If you're a manager and you're fighting for your job, you can't rely on your young players to come through. I think when you've got a bit of goodwill with the support, you can get away with it, because the fans will generally back a young team coming through and make allowances for them, as we've seen with Tim Mowbray's team never hit the ground running. I think everybody could see what he was trying to do, so they were happy to let sort of play out. But if you're losing games and you chuck the young boys in, you're just sort of hiding it nothing. It doesn't do anybody any good, I think. Right, just got a couple of minutes left. I'm just going to read out a couple of tweets and get your thoughts on it, and then we'll wrap up. So, AK Rab said, I found it annoying that the players' new conditions were bad, yet kept humping high balls up the pitch that went nowhere due to the wind. We were better in the first when we played more on the deck. That was a fair point last night, Rab. I think Stevenson hit a cross that was like, it looked decent, and then the wind caught and just took it right out of play. John, I just having a wee look at the image you sent, the goal, and there's two Ross County players, Samagen, Marshall there, fucking ridiculous.
What do you think about that foul, though? Is that a foul? Or because Marshall came out and said he should have done better.
Aye, so Marshall
Ross County's manager said that he said that.
Aye, but I think even if you're Marshall, I don't think he necessarily know that he knows who's bundled into him, because there's loads of bodies in the box. So I think a goalkeeper is going to think, she could probably been stronger there, but he's been fucking fouled. I mean, I don't think there's any
mental that most if that was Joe Hart or John McLaughlin, that's given us a foul straight away.
Aye, 100%.
Or even Xander Clark. Clark, that's given us a foul.
100%. And the other keepers are getting it. And
I think the defence of Marshall you put in as well is that it's that blatant a foul that he obviously doesn't think he's been fouled that badly. He knows he's been hit and all this sort of stuff. But if he's shown him the replay before he commented on it, I think he might have said something different, because he's expecting that to be given every day. And it's been VAR, so that's maybe just put a bit of doubt in his head.
What a load of piss that is, and all VAR.
Nonsense. Which we'll give it right earlier. Charlie McGrew thinks he made that up. Said over the past 10 to 15 years or so, the best players we've had have all been from lower league Scottish teams for low cash. Griffiths, McGinn, Nisbet, Boyle, etc. I think we need to get back to this model ASAP, i.e. players who ken the Scottish game. And asking what's Kalina up to these days. Bring him in as head VAR gadget. The Mad Highway said there's been VAR controversy at Pittodrie tonight. McCrory sent off for well. We don't know yet. Looks a terrible decision. I think the VAR in general is fucking it's not the VAR, like the VAR system is like, I always think it's a good idea. It's the cunts that are operating it haven't got a fucking clue what they're doing, and it's just causing havoc. Anyway, that's us out of time tonight, guys. Thanks very much for jumping on. It's been great chatting to everybody. If you've not heard it already, we put an episode out earlier on just covering the match, and we did speak about VAR, so that'll be on your podcast players on YouTube. And if you want to support the podcast and get extra content, you can click on our wee link on our Twitter bio and subscribe, and you'll get Longbangers early. You'll get Longbangers Extra Time, which is special episodes only for subscribers, and you'll get extra short bangers in there as well. Well worth the £3. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you all later. Cheers, guys.
Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee. I don't drink